All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to quickly give you a couple reminders on this, just because I know some people have been struggling. There were some good questions asked in office hours, so let me show you a few things. So for each of these, what I suggested was make sure you get a couple negatives, make sure you get a couple positives. So here's the thing about function like this. Now this is considered a function, y equals negative x plus 1. And the way you kind of think about it is a machine, right? You plug in a number and it brings something back. And typically it does so in a specific way. And in this case, when you plug it in, it becomes the opposite sign, and then you add 1, and that pattern will be the same throughout. And so when you go to plot your points, you should see a pattern. I like this because it gets a couple negatives, gets a couple positives, gets 0 in there. And so then you know how it behaves in the middle of the graph, because your points will be along these points, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 are these points right here. You plug them in, -2 becomes opposite. So think about it, it's -2, so it's negative, -2. So those cancel. 2 plus 1 will be 3. Negative of -1, so the opposite of -1, 1, so it'd be 2. Plug in a 0, 1. And you can see the pattern now, it's going down by 1. Right? And then you can plot those points again. Remember how to do that. Double click into the graph, shapes, create a circle. So one of our points was what? 0, 1, right? Create a point there. Hit Control C to copy, Control V to paste a couple. There were like 5. It's funny, they kind of actually fall right in a row there like that. So I think it was -2, 3. You just kind of go like that and line them up. And you want to connect those dots. Then I'm not going to line them all up for you here. Connect the dots as they should be. You would obviously need to move these two. These are not correct. These two down here. You need to move those. But so that's that. Oh, before I stop on this problem, let me make sure to mention. So as you can see, this graph, and in the end, it's not going to be perfect, but you can see this graph, it crosses our axes, right? So we have our y-axis here, up and down. We have our x-axis horizontal across. So when it asks you for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, you're looking for the point where, for the y, it crosses the y-axis, and you can see it crosses right there at 0, 1. Okay, and then for the x-axis right here, it's going to be 1, 0. So you're just identifying the point where it crosses the different axes. Now, for the next one, just a couple. I'm not going to give you the answers on the next two, but a couple tips here. So you could do the same thing: -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Now, you could do this, you'd be just fine, but you will end up with some decimals, right? Because 1, if you plug in 1, 1 times a half is a half, plus 2 would be 2.5. You'll be dealing with decimals. If you want to avoid decimals on these, think about what you're multiplying by. You're multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So as long as your numbers are even, you'll avoid those, and that's totally fine. For x, you can pick anything. I just happen to like having it, go by ones, -2 to 2. But if you want to avoid the decimals, this is fine too. And it's basically what I like. You got some negatives, you got some positives, and you got the 0 in the middle. All right. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you was, and so just remember your x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. For this, I would go back to picking something like this, especially since these are nice small numbers. And then my tip here is take a look at what you're plugging into. It says x squared minus 4. This graph, because of this x squared, is going to look different. And you're not doing anything wrong by getting that. So you take -2, put it in. -2 squared is positive 4 because -2, think about what squared means. -2 times -2, negative times negative is positive. All right, now if you do 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Oops, I'm not quite done with that problem. 4 minus 4 would be 0. Now let's do this one. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So you can tell something's funky is going on because they both have the same y. But graph it, I can tell you it's not going to be a straight line like these ones. And we'll talk a lot more about why that is, but that's what we're looking at there. As for these questions, try your best. All you can really answer, I think, is part A, because you can answer the questions, how are they different, which I kind of helped you out on that. And then these ones are, you don't have to worry about B and C. That's labeling. I'm not too worried about it. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that helps.